Okay, so we're going to be simplifying fractions. Again, you guys, we use a super one, as you know. So don't forget, in your posters, we've got our super one poster. Remember, a super one is any fraction that has the same numerator as a denominator. So 3 over 3, 10 over 10. We use super ones to simplify fractions, to reduce them, to make equivalent fractions and ratios. So we talk a lot about super ones. Don't forget this, this poster. It will help you as well. It's in your references. Okay, so I have written use a super one just to remind us. So we're going to start with 9/12, okay? When you are reducing fractions, you are looking for a common factor. These are going to be our multiples, if you will. Yes, this is our numerator and this is our denominator, but we're still looking for common factors, okay? So you're always going to want to start with the top number and say, okay, what makes 9? What factors go into 9? Well, we know 9 and 1, and we know 3 times 3 is 9, right? So you're going to take those factors and go, okay, do any of those factors go into 12? Well, I always start with whatever the numerator is, and I ask myself, does 9 go into 12? Is 9 a factor of 12? Well, it's not. So what else makes 9? Well, 3 does. Well, does 3 go into 12? Is 3 a factor of 12? 3, 6, 9, 12? Yes, it is. So as soon as we find common factors, we are going to divide by that super one. Okay, so if 3 is a factor of 9 and 12, then that's what we're going to divide both of these numbers by. That's what simplifying is. We're trying to make this fraction in its very simplest form, in its very lowest terms. It's also called lowest terms, okay? So you have to find, you can only reduce a fraction with a factor that they both have. Again, that's why we're looking for a super one, okay? So we have 9 divided by 3. Well, 9 divided by 3 is 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Well, boys and girls, how do we know we're done? Yes, we're 1 away. So anytime your denominator is 1 away from your, anytime your numerator is 1 away from your denominator, if you're counting, you say 1, 2, 3, 4. If it's 1 away, you know you're finished. You cannot make a fraction lower than that right there, okay? All right, so we're looking at 35 and 80, and we're thinking, okay, what common factors are these numbers going to have? Well, we don't talk about 80 a whole lot, but look at what they both end in, guys. They end in a 5, and this ends in a 0. And what factor do we know goes into every number that ends in 5 or 0? Yes, 5, okay? So our super one is going to be 5 over 5. So 5 goes into 35. Well, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. So that's going to be a 7. Well, 80, we don't really go up to 80 with our 5 song, but that's okay. We can do it just like we do when we factor. You can divide 80 divided by 5 if you need to, or we can do it the way we do it when we prime factor. We can do it mentally, okay? So 5 goes into 8. How many times? Well, it goes in 1, so we can write our 1. Well, 5 times 1 is only 5, and this is 8. So you're going to have to subtract. 8 minus 5 is 3, and you can put that little 3 in front of that 0. And that makes 30, and 5 goes into 30 how many times? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. It goes in 6 times, so that's going to end up being a 16. If you don't want to divide by that, like that, you can totally divide this the way that you learned. 5 goes into 8 one time, then you're going to write your 5. 8 minus 5 is 3. You're going to bring down your 0, and 5 goes into 36 times. It's exactly what we just did. We just did it mentally over here, and here we showed our work. Okay, so whichever way works best for you is great. So we're looking at our 7 over 16. Well, how do we know we're done? How do we know this is lowest terms? Well, we ask ourselves, what makes 7? Well, guess what? 7's a prime number, remember? So the only thing that makes 7 is 7 times 1. So if 7 is not a factor of 16, we know we're finished. Well, 7, 14, 21, 7 is not a factor of 16. So we know that we have simplified that to lowest terms. All right, we have 56 and 72. These are both pretty big. They're both even. So what number do we know for sure we could use what super one? 2 over 2. But these are pretty big, and so if they have 2 in common, they probably have something else in common too. So let's think about what makes 56. Well, 6 plus 5 is 11, so 3 is not going to go into 56. We sing 56 in our song. We sing 56 in our 7 and our 8 song. Do 7 or 8 go into 72? Again, you can quickly sing your songs and see which one goes into 72. Well, if we sing 7, 14, 21, 28, and 35, 42, 49, 56, and 63, 70, and 77. It's not in our 7 song. So let's try our 8. 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, and 56, 64, 72. There it was, 72. So we know 8 goes into both of these. So that's going to be probably, most likely, the biggest common factor they have. So our super one's going to be 8 over 8. Well, how many times did 8 go into 56? Well, when we sang our song, it was a 7. And how many times did 8 go into 72? Well, when we sang our song, that was a 9. Well, we have 7 9s. Well, that's not 1 away. Those are 2 away, but 7 again is prime, remember? And if 7's prime and it's not a factor of the denominator, then you know you're finished. Well, obviously 7 times 2 is 14, so we know that we're finished because 7 is prime and it's not a factor of 9. So we're at 24 over 36. Again, we're looking at 2 even numbers, so we know 2 could be our super one. Does 3 go into 24? Well, 4 plus 2 is 6, so yes, it goes in. 6 plus 3 is 9, so yeah, 3 goes into both of these, so 3 could be our super one. So let's think of something bigger. Well, you know what? If 3 goes in, 9 has to go. It doesn't have to go in, but we can try it. Well, 9 goes into 36, but 9 doesn't go into 24. So what else could possibly? Well, we know they're even, so we know 2 is a factor. We just found out 3 was because we added the digits. That's our divisibility rule for 3. Well, if 2 and 3 are both factors, what other factor do we know those have? 6. Remember, if they have 2 and 3, they have to have 6. So I don't know if 6 is our biggest super one, but it's bigger than 2 and 3, so let's use it, okay? So 24 divided by 6, 6, 12, 18, 24, that's going to be 4. And then 6 into 36, 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36. Oh, that's a 6, okay? So now we're looking at 4, 6. But remember, boys and girls, we have to simplify all the way down. Well, I'm looking at 2 even numbers. And if I'm looking at 2 even numbers, what do I know? I know that 2 goes into both of these. So they're not simplified all the way. So I'm going to have to divide both of these again by 2. Well, what's 4 divided by 2? It's 2. And what's 6 divided by 2? It's 3. Well, that's 1 away. 2's 1 away from 3, so we know we're finished. But how can we figure out what our greatest common factor was? Because 6, it was a common factor, but it wasn't the greatest. Well, this is what you can do to figure that out. If you look at both of the numbers, both of your super ones that you used to simplify, if you will multiply these 2 numbers together, that's going to give you your super one. That's going to give you the biggest, greatest common factor they had. Well, what is 6 times 2? It's 12. So that means that 12 over 12 should have been our super one. And let's think about that. If we divided 12 over 12, what's 24 divided by 12? It's 2. What's 36 divided by 12? It's 3. So if we would have used our superest of super ones, we would have gotten to 2/3 the very first time. And it's totally okay if we don't. It's totally okay to divide twice. You just have to make sure that when you're finished that you look at your fraction really carefully and make sure it is reduced to lowest terms, okay? All right, so we're at 21 over 22. Well, we know 21 has 7 and 3. We know 22 has 2 and 11. But look closely, boys and girls. What do you see? If we're counting, would we say 20, 21, 22? Yes. So these 2 fractions they're 1 away. Well, guys, if they're 1 away, we know we can't reduce it. We know it's already lowest terms, okay? All right, we're looking at 15 over 21. So let's look at our top number first because it's usually the smallest. So what makes 15? Well, we know 5 goes in because it ends in a 5. So 5, 10, 15. So we know 5 times 3 is 15. Do either one of those numbers go into 21? Is 3 or 5 a factor of 21? Well, we know 5 isn't because 21 doesn't end in 5. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 3 is. So what's our super one? It's 3 over 3. Okay? So we're going to divide. 15 divided by 3 is 5. 21 divided by 3, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21 was 7. So our numbers aren't 1 away, they're 2 away, but look at our numbers, guys. We have a 5 and a 7, and both those numbers are what? They're prime. So we know if we have two prime numbers in the numerator and the denominator, we know we're finished and we know that's simplified.